Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Niels, and welcome to this session about customer loyalty and how you can build that in 2021. We'll come up with your new action plan today. We're going to kick off the session in just a minute or so. I just want to give everyone a chance to join, to get comfortable. So if you just rushed out of one meeting into this one, and you want to get a drink, now is probably a good time to get it, and we'll just wait a bit for more people to join. In the meantime, I'll just talk a bit about today's format. So today will be a conversation with our guests. So yeah, and we're looking for sort of interactivity around that. So if you do have any questions throughout the session, you want to ask our guests anything, then just drop it in the questions section that you find in the control panel on the right hand side. We saw that some of you are already active very early on, so if you do have any questions or you want to share anything with us, then yeah, the questions or chat feature is probably the place to be. What we're going to do today as well to sort of create a bit more interactivity is, besides chat, we'll have a few polls. So I'm just going to pull up the first poll, and we'll use that to sort of get a bit of interaction going as much as we can. It will also help us to steer the conversation a little bit, and yeah, it will also give us a good idea of who's still with us and who isn't. So we're just going to do a little bit of a throwback to 2020. You guys should be seeing the poll right now. And we're just going to see, like, obviously for a lot of people, 2020 is a year that we want to forget. We want to move on from that. But I'm curious to hear from a business perspective how 2020 has been for you guys. We've obviously seen a huge difference within sort of performance in 2020 for obvious reasons. And I'll promise that today we won't necessarily go into 2020 too much. I think we're all done with that. So let us know how 2020 has been. Has it been booming? Has it been not too bad given the circumstances? Has it been tough? Or should we just not talk about it and move on already? So I'll just wait a couple of seconds for responses to come in. That's looking quite good. All right.
That's quite funny. I don't want to talk about it.
All right. We've got quite a nice number of responses. So I'm just going to close this one. We can count this one as a test question. And then you just know that we'll have a few more of those throughout the session. So, so be aware. I'm going to close that now. So if you're still hovering over your answer, then this is the time to click. All right, we're going to close that. All right. It looks like 2020 has been decent for most of you. So 52% is not bad given the circumstances. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I guess for us it's sort of similar. There is 19% that has had a booming year, and obviously there has been some of you that had a very, or at least a tough year. And then 4% just doesn't want to talk about it. So I suggest that we don't. And I think looking at the number of attendees that we have today is probably a good time to get started. I'm going to hide the poll, and then you guys should be able to see the opening slide. So for everyone who just joined, welcome. My name is Niels Kolijn. I'm partnership manager at dotdigital. And today we're going to be talking with you about building customer loyalty in 2021, and we'll come up with your new action plan. Now, obviously, 2020 has been a weird year, has been a crazy year, and I think a lot of businesses have been sort of looking for ways to reconnect with their audience, to offer meaningful communication with their customers, and that's been tricky. Now, the role that customer loyalty plays in that, and the way that you can go about that, that's just a few of the questions that our first guest today deals with on a daily basis. Sheila, welcome. Good having you with us today. Could you tell us a little bit more about your role and sort of the work that Antavo does around this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Sheila Power. I'm the VP for the UK at Antavo. We're a software as a service loyalty platform, recognised by both Gartner and Forrester over the last year, and work with currently over 50 clients globally, including some really great UK brands, Benefit Cosmetics, Beerhawk, Simply Be, Jojo Mama Bebe, you have to say Bebe. I have a really strong omni-channel offering, linking kind of on and offline worlds, allowing our clients to kind of fight that discount culture and really bring fresh and engaging loyalty programs to their customers.
Nice, good. Yeah, and I mean, it might be good to say, like, the reason that we're here is obviously within my role as partnership manager, I work closely with you guys, and yeah, that's powered, or at least that results into a very nice integration between the two, and sort of what that can unlock is what we will be looking at today as well. Perfect, thanks. Then a second guest, for those who have watched other sessions of dotdigital webinars, live events back in the days when that was still possible, the second guest probably won't need too much of an introduction. But for those who aren't familiar yet with my second guest, welcome, Gavin. It's good having you with us. Would you mind just sharing a bit about your role and also about dotdigital for those who aren't familiar yet?
Yeah, thank you. Gavin Laugenie, Head of Strategy and Insight at dotdigital. I'm an Aries. I'm a bit of an email geek, and I love sort of helping clients out with understanding more about email and sort of getting used to churning out the results they want to using our platform. In terms of what we do, I don't know if there's the slide on dotdigital, but these slides are a little bit sort of I guess complex in terms of what's on there. But just to kind of go through, we're an omni-channel automation marketing platform, and as you can see there, we've got 4,000 clients worldwide. I guess speed and ease of use is at the core of what we do. So, we help our clients get to their goals faster. And we have a number of clients shared with Antavo. Beautiful pronunciation there, Sheila, on Jojo Mama Baby. You can see some of those there. We've been voted as sort of one of the best in terms of marketing automation with G2, and also been recognised by Forrester as well. So happy to be here, happy to sort of run through this presentation. Loyalty is something that means a lot to both of us, so yeah, happy to get involved.
Perfect. Well, yeah, let's explore that a little bit more. You guys just saw the poll about 2020. I promised that we wouldn't talk too much about it anymore, but of course it is good at the start of 2021 to reflect. And so I'm wondering, with today's topic in mind, customer loyalty, what did you and what did we learn from 2020, and what are sort of your predictions for this year?
I'll jump in first. I think well, it's good to see from the poll that yes, a lot of people are doing well still from last year, and that's a great thing to see. I think generally a lot of people would say, businesses and individuals would say, that 2020 sort of handed them a bit of a bum deal, but I think one thing we did learn is that you need to be a bit agile. So plans were just sort of ripped to shreds straight away. And you needed to be able to pivot and move into a sort of a new direction. So I'm always worried when people ask me for predictions, because I hate predictions, and last year pretty much showed us that we should be looking at predictions. But I think because of that, what we should be looking at more is sort of digital agility, you know, the ability to sort of pivot very easily and move along with things, you know, have more of an increased emphasis on empathy, connecting with our customers, loyalty, as we've been speaking about, we're going to be speaking about all day today, really. And I think it was a surprise to a lot of brands that they just weren't sort of doing that sort of thing. They were having to play catch up. Particularly in the email industry, I think there needs to be, in terms of a prediction for this year, if I can give anything, there needs to be more of an emphasis on using data and using tools to sort of crunch through the data so you can deliver a more personalized experience for people. So staying agile, you know, putting in really good deliverability as well. So if you can lean on your sort of email provider for that, so you can make a better push into the inbox and have a sort of a bigger bang there, that's great. Technology as well, sort of leaning on technology, so you've got that automation to help you maximize your results. But then ensuring that you're sort of staying true to the customer and listening to what they want and what they need, and that's that sort of empathy thing. And I think that's probably the you know, me putting my neck on the line for a prediction there. But that's as far as I think I'd go.
Decent. What about you, Sheila?
I think similar. I mean, I think at Antavo we definitely saw that retailers and brands may not be as customer centric as they thought they were. You know, spoken to many who struggled to communicate with their customers and really build connections during the lockdown, especially those in an omni-channel environment where kind of e-commerce might not be the dominant channel. They kind of found they might have a customer database, but with no real insight into which customers in that database, you know, the kind of most important ones, the most valuable, the most loyal, and how do they try to keep a relationship going when their stores are closed. I think 2020 kind of made it clear that if you're using loyalty purely as a tool to drive discounts, you know, and off your next purchase, then your whole customer retention strategy can kind of dissolve very quickly in tough times. So really needing to build out genuinely meaningful touch points between purchases, engage with customers more in their day-to-day lives, show that your brand values resonate with their brand values. You know, a couple of stats just on this slide, I think kind of show that customers are becoming more attached to the brands that they do have that kind of connection with and where they feel their values are aligned. But they are becoming more selective in who they're going to kind of start sharing their data with and which programs they're going to join up to. I think customers have very high expectations these days of what they expect in return from their participation in your loyalty program. So I think for me, it's 2021 is going to be a kind of real fast tracking of more brand and value-driven loyalty programs and a sharp move away from just points for money off your next purchase. And I mean, you know, that's been happening in the loyalty industry anyway for the last couple of years, but I think there's been a real expedition in that, like expedited speed of change coming. And I think that, as Gavin mentioned the word empathy, I think we'll start to see much more broader engagement and kind of empathy within loyalty strategy.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that's something I want to come back to, but while we were sort of preparing for this session and while I've been talking with Antavo, I also realized that there might be quite a few different understandings of loyalty programs and loyalty as a whole. I think it'd be interesting, you know, I want to get into that and sort of see what do you see as a loyalty program? What do you mean by that? But I'm also curious to see, so I'm going to pull up one more poll here to see which share of the crowd today is already using a loyalty program. So, so if you just bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to pull that up. So yeah, just putting this out there. Are you currently already using a loyalty program, or is it something that you're maybe working on at the moment? Let us know. Just going to give that a few seconds.
Just to throw out there as well, I mean, you mentioned, Sheila, about people being, I guess, in some ways a bit wary about sharing their data, and I think that's something to bear in mind as well when you're asking for specific things or when you're using people's data. You have to be very, very clear that you're not going to be abusing it. Stay true to what you're saying. So be open, honest, and transparent about the way that you're going to be using people's data. I think that's very important now, especially as we've seen a rise of sort of people worried about how, like Facebook, for example, are using data. I think we have to be clear on exactly what we're collecting and how we're going to be using it, just to put people at ease.
Yeah,
I think that's key.
Absolutely. Perfect. Okay, let's see. We've got quite a few votes in at the moment, so I'm going to close that, and I'm curious to see what that brings us to. I'll share that. I won't keep that information to myself. So yeah, the majority of today's audience, or at least of you guys, have said that you're not currently using a loyalty program. So I think, yeah, that makes it all the more obvious that we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, what do we mean by loyalty? Like, what is a loyalty program, and then, yeah, what are sort of best practices?
Yeah. To jump in on this one, I think loyalty is about like recognizing and understanding your customers and their needs across all the interactions with your brand. And I think having data across all of those interactions is what enables you to have that understanding and to generate that loyalty. So I think where a loyalty program is a kind of slightly different thing to just loyalty. The way the loyalty program is really valuable is that that's what enables you to capture that data. So if you design a program right, then customers, through the loyalty program, identifying themselves at those different interactions, whether that's interacting on social, whether they're leaving a product review, whether they've referred a friend, content consumption, competition entries, you know, if you're smart with the program and there's, you know, earning of points or unlocking of rewards for these different types of interactions, then not only are you incentivizing them to be very engaged with your brand, but you're being able to understand where they're engaging and how they're engaging to help understand and generate that kind of loyalty more as a concept rather than a loyalty program, because I think there's kind of two different things at play there.
Exactly. Yeah. I completely agree with that. You know, it's pretty spot on. And we can see from this sort of diagram here, you want to keep people at the core of what it is you're doing. You've got all these sort of touch points around. And I think this is what, if you've got this sort of approach, what you'll do is you'll have this this sort of more personalized experience for everyone, and that's what we're sort of looking for. And I think even if we're being honest as well, when we're shopping ourselves, whether it's in a B2B or B2C sphere, we're looking to have a personalized experience that sort of whole way through. So I think that's what we need to try and do, and look at that customer life cycle, because again, each of these sort of touch points here we're sort of looking at, they'll sort of appear at different places in the customer life cycle. So I think if we sort of pay attention to that, and if anyone's playing buzzword bingo, then you're going to get some points here, because what we need to be doing is making sure that we're sending, you know, the right message to the right person at the right time. I know it's cheesy, but it's one of those things. It hits home, because that's exactly what we're looking to try and do. And if we filter into that as well, the right channel, I think that also makes a sort of a big impact for people. So definitely, you know, automating the process, because you can't possibly look to achieve all of this without doing that. But as you said as well, Sheila, making sure we're keeping on top of the data, because that's what's going to drive things through. And I think this is the beauty of having like an integration like we have, because you can start utilizing the data that you guys sort of collect throughout the sort of loyalty program, and then we can put it to use as well in automation and vice versa. So I think that's quite an important thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think not having the kind of marketing element in a silo from the loyalty program, in a silo from social, from those two pieces, and having the data pulling it all together so the customers feel like it's one kind of tone of voice and holistic message coming through all the channels. Yeah.
Otherwise it's kind of disjointed, right? And no one wants that. So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, the buzz phrase is something we hear a lot, of course, within our industry, but also use it a lot. So I guess that makes it very true, right? But it's good that we've got a clear view on sort of loyalty programs. But yeah, also now looking at that poll, so if we can sort of assume that the audience today is a representation of sort of the market, why is 50% not doing this? Why aren't they, like, what are the blockers?
I think probably two categories. I think one that we just started to touch on there, so I'll go with that first, is more about practical limitations around the kind of technology in place and having the right systems, but more importantly, the right systems actually talking to each other to help you execute whatever vision you might want, because it's nice to have a slide with, you know, customer in the middle and all the channels around and all the messages at the right time, and it all sounds, you know, the concept is obviously everyone kind of understands and thinks, yes, that makes sense, but really putting that in practice, especially in a fast moving environment like retail, can be really challenging. I know that's why, you know, at Antavo, we really focus and put a lot of effort into our partnerships ecosystem. So we're building out really deep integrations rather than kind of doubling up functionality or capabilities. So that's why, you know, like as you mentioned, our partnership with dotdigital, having an integration with that platform, so our clients using it for marketing automation, all the loyalty data is seamlessly flowing through. But I think, you know, that's a big blocker from a resource and investment point of view. Especially a lot of businesses with some legacy systems still, especially in an omni-channel environment, can be really quite limiting on a practical sense. But I think the other area for me, which I've heard for kind of years now working in loyalty, is, well, we've talked about loyalty and we always talk about it at board level, and we kind of want to do it, but we're just not sure if we're going to do it. And it's something that gets talked about for years before people do. And I think that's a few reasons why. I think it's customer, some retailers already thinking they're kind of customer centric, but they're not necessarily. So they're kind of like, we could do it, but we've got a CRM program, or we've got this, or we've got that, so do we need to? You know, a lot of businesses with that kind of mindset still talk about the customer as like one homogeneous group, you know, outside of the marketing department anyway. They're just like, well, we know our customer, she is A, B, and C. I think it's then also not seeing it as a long-term profitability driver. So a lot of business, like we talked about it, if it's a big investment, you know, you can't launch it and then stop it, which is absolutely right. You know, you can't give customers something and take it away. But I think this belief that a loyalty program is a cost rather than actually nowadays like an essential tool to really understand your customers and interact with them in the ways that we've just started talking about today. So I think the bigger one is that cultural piece to overcome, because I think when it comes to the technology and the tools in place, you know, you can always start off simple and get more evolved over time and, you know, take it in steps. But if from the top down, there's not a belief that we need to really understand and engage with our customers and build out genuine brand loyalty, then no matter how many tools you might have in the day-to-day, you're not going to deliver what you need.
Yeah. I was nodding away there. I don't know if you could see me. I was nodding. I agree with you. We're sort of both singing from the same hymn sheet, and I jotted down a couple of things as well as you're talking there, because I think it's true. A lot of brands, not to go back to 2020, but a lot of brands last year realized they just weren't as customer centric as they thought they were. And there was a number of things in that. There's, you know, data. I'm going to go back to and talk about data in a second, but data is a massive part of that. And you know, that customer centric approach is what loyalty is all about. And if you think you're doing that, but you're not actually doing it, then you're not achieving that sort of loyalty as you thought you were. And I think one key thing you said there as well is it's not just like a marketing function. This is something that has to be taken on across all teams. Everyone needs to be sort of singing from the same hymn sheet. It's like your whole business is sort of built around the sort of the loyalty and making sure you're keeping a customer. I always sort of talk about the fact that it's a lot cheaper to retain a customer than it is to go out and get a new customer. You know, so why don't we sort of focus on that more? And I'll give a little shout out to O2, because I always thought when I was with O2, I'm not with O2 anymore, but when I was with O2, they constantly gave me little perks to keep me on board. The only thing for me is the service wasn't as good as it should be, and that's why I moved on. But you know, at least I was always hearing from them, and it was always good things. You know, I'm with EE now, and the only time I hear from them is when they want me to pay. So exactly, yeah. So I think those things are sort of really important. And I think that's where people struggle a little bit in terms of, I guess, our sphere, when, you know, with our clients. I think the ones that deal really well with loyalty are the ones that lean on us. They ask us for help, because I think a lot of the time you look at marketing teams, they're maybe a little bit smaller, they're a bit more stretched, so they can't always get on top of these things. So I think leaning on your sort of your ecosystem, your suppliers, your vendors, then that makes the whole thing a lot easier. But as I said as well, going back to data and these touch points that we're sort of looking at and how you manage all of that together, a lot of companies don't actually have that sort of visibility. And you mentioned CRM and being able to sort of utilize or harness that data. If you look at brands like Coca-Cola, for example, who aren't probably having the same sort of, I guess, reach as they usually do. You know, after you finish a day at work, because you've been working in the office, you might pick up a can of Coke on the way home. That's not happening anymore. So they're probably looking to go direct to the customer, like a D2C brand. But they're straight away having the issue of, well, we don't have any data on our end customer because they don't sell direct to the end customer. So I think that's something that brands need to start looking at, is understanding exactly who your customers are, maybe building up, you know, a bit of a profile of those individuals and sort of attacking it that way. But that makes it more difficult too, right? But again, as I said, if you lean on your suppliers, then hopefully they can give you a bit of a leg up on those sorts of things.
So, I mean, data is definitely important there, right? But at the same time, it's also just a half of it, because, yeah, I just want to refer back to something you said earlier, is that you mentioned it's important. This was one of your predictions. It's important for companies in 2021 to show empathy. So you can have all that data, but then how are you going to use it? So I guess the question is, like, how can retailers actually show empathy?
Yeah. I think it's a difficult thing, right? I've been talking about sort of using the tech right, you know, making sure we've got these sort of integrations and using your data and everything, and it does help massively, because if you've got that data, you can segment, you can send the right message to those people. I mentioned about the sort of life cycle, so you can pick out the right people and give them the right message, but also it comes down to what you're actually saying in these messages as well for these emails. And I've got a couple of examples so I can sort of walk through those. But today's consumer, you know, they're not sort of looking just for you guys to sell them stuff. They're looking for a bit more of a connection, you know, something about social change as well. And, you know, they're looking for brands to share their values. And also what we should be doing is sort of looking at our customers, not just as customers, but as fans of our business. That sort of helps to change the mindset a little bit. And I show this example from Tottenham here because, I mean, they always talk about their customers as fans because they are fans of Tottenham. I'm not a fan of Tottenham, but you know, that's me. But you know, when you're a fan of a football club, it's slightly different. I think you approach things in slightly different ways. And this is an example of an email they sent when we were in the first lockdown, all that time ago, back in 2020. But it's all about solidarity, right? It's sort of saying, you know, we understand the issues you're going through, and here are some of the real people who support the club, and just showing how, you know, it's tough right now. And you know, there's a woman there, she has been seeing Tottenham since she was a little girl, and all this way through she supported them and they're backing her. And I think that's great. And you use things like automation and whatnot to send out these messages. But it's very important that the message actually in these emails are very personal. So you're sprinkling in your sort of personality along the way. And the next example I've got here, again, I mean, these emails aren't sort of amazing in terms of interactivity. I think that's something that people should look at too in their messages. But what they're doing, they're sort of touching people. Because this one from Black Tomato, they're a travel company. They were probably hit really hard sort of last year, but what they're able to do is again say, look, we know that you love travel. We know we can't do that again right now, but we will do that again, and let's reflect back on places that we went to in the past to sort of get you know, prepare for looking forward. So again, what they're probably doing behind the scenes is segmenting, sending, you know, specific messages with memories of specific trips. And that's sort of connecting with people, and you've got that sort of empathy going. If I can even speak, there you go.
Nice. Yeah, that makes you want to travel again.
Yeah, I miss it.
Yeah. I think we got a few examples from your end as well, Sheila, don't we?
Yeah, I think.
But I guess we just go back a bit to the question as well, like when it comes to Antavo, like what are best practices? Like how can you show empathy as a retailer?
Yeah, I think it's something we're always kind of encouraging our clients when we're speaking to them to do, is to think more broadly about how you can engage your customers and what do they want from you and what do you really kind of deliver as a brand experience, rather than, as Gavin says, of course, you're trying to sell product. Most of our clients are retailers, so that's why I kind of talk about selling product. But that's not, you need to have more to you than that. So really understanding what are some of the different experiences and services you can give customers that are going to help them engage with you and want to come to you, especially these days. You can buy product from many different places. Customers have got price comparison. There's, the barriers to kind of switching are so low. So a few nice examples. It also doesn't have to be very complex. I think a couple of nice examples. The first one is a long-standing client of ours in Italy, Luisa Via Roma. They are a primarily online luxury fashion business. They've been with us for a few years. Their loyalty program's really evolved over time. And one of the more recent developments was their sneaker club, and I think this also touches on elements we talked about earlier about this being broader, loyalty programs being broader than just a marketing tool. So they have they were having some challenges around product availability. They get a lot of exclusive content, exclusive product, so their sneakers would drop and they were selling out immediately, and when they looked at the data, it was resellers coming and pretty much buying in bulk and buying the entire collection out in one transaction. So obviously you can imagine from a customer point of view, it's hugely frustrating. It's a very disappointing experience, never being able to get what you were wanting that's being advertised. So they came up with a great idea, which is so simple, which is the Sneakers Club as part of their loyalty program. So customers use the points that they've earned to buy access to the Sneakers Club. And once you're in it, you get advance notice of when the product's coming. You get a little countdown timer and reminders. Through the Antavo platform, we can limit it that you could only buy one pair of sneakers per customer. So we're stopping the resellers buying out. So your customers are then feeling like they are part of something exclusive, getting product that they weren't able to get otherwise, and really getting value from being a part of the Luisa Via Roma club. I think also to the point I touched on earlier about loyalty being seen as a cost center, what's also really nice about this is customers are redeeming points to then go on to be able to buy a full price item. So it's cost Luisa Via Roma nothing, and over 2 million points already have been traded in for people just to become part of that club. So it's a real win-win situation in terms of kind of showing empathy, that we understand the frustration, we understand the pain, that we're telling you about these great products we're going to get and then you can't get them, but we're going to make sure that you can. So I think that was a nice example. And then a couple of other even more simple ones really is more about the showing that your brand values resonate with each other. So Beerhawk, we mentioned, is one of our kind of joint client between us. Sustainability is important to them. They've always allowed customers to return their beer kegs, but they took that to the next level and actually incentivized customers so you can earn your loyalty beer tokens when you return the keg. So really encouraging people to do that. So it's a really simple way of just tapping into that for sustainability and kind of recycling that everyone's trying to do to show that it matters to them as a business as well as you. And then just the last small example, which I think is my favorite, is a recent client of ours in Germany, Bergzeit. They are, I don't know if I said that right actually, but they are an outdoor apparel business. Hiking and other outdoor activities, and we integrated the Antavo loyalty platform with Strava. So, obviously their customers are into outdoor activities and being fit. So this is really showing that they value that's what you're into, that their products are enabling you to do that, and that you're using their products in your day-to-day life. So this is a nice example where we talked about bringing customers' day-to-day life into their loyalty program. So you depending on how you hit certain challenges, certain hikes, certain activity levels, you unlock rewards based on the integration through the Strava platform. So this is a really nice example of it being, you can imagine that this purchase frequency is pretty low on some of that type of equipment. So if you wanted to go 6 months without any real interaction until a customer's considering their next purchase, whereas this way you're kind of interacting with them, I mean, potentially on a daily basis, really, you know, it's up to you as to how much you want to engage with the Strava element. So it's a really nice tangible example of just bringing customers' day-to-day life into your loyalty proposition.
I really like that example, and the more I hear of sort of integrating that sort of data to enrich the experience for individuals, I sort of love it. I fall in love with it even more. But yeah, I've heard a lot of sort of people using Strava data to sort of power their sort of individual campaigns, and I think that's the sort of that stuff people need. That personal approach.
I love that too, because it also gives that competitive element. So I'm actually quite easily triggered by these campaigns. So yeah, if brands do target me, then I'm probably a good person to target. I had a little bit of technical issues there, but I'm back, and that's good because I see that we're sort of running out of time here. So what I'm going to do is just move to the last question, which is around key focus for 2021. And this is again where I sort of want to check in with the audience to see, you know, how that looks like for you guys. So I'm just going to launch another poll. Here we go. So where are you focusing your marketing efforts in 2021? Is that going to be retention? Is that going to be acquisition? A combination of the two, or maybe something completely different? Just make sure to click on the answer while we're sort of waiting for your answers to come in. That's going quite steadily. Nice. Give that a few more seconds.
It's actually interesting. I can see the results here as well. I'm watching, but it's quite interesting so far.
Yeah.
That's people are sort of voting.
I guess quite healthy as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, last chances for your vote, and then we're gonna close it. All right, there we go. I'm gonna share that with you. So 64% says that they're going to be using a combination of the two. That surprise you guys?
No, I think it's healthy for you to be looking to both acquire and retain business. I mean, you're always gonna have a leaky bucket, right? I always say this to clients. You can have a leaky bucket, so you want to put more on the top to sort of fill things up. But if you can do your best to sort of plug the holes, then that's exactly what you need to be doing as well. But yeah, you obviously want to do both. But I think there was a more of a leaning towards, instead of just acquiring, retaining, which I think is exactly where we need to be, is probably leaning more that way.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and that sort of leads into the next or the last question of today, actually. So if you had your own brand, what would you focus on in 2021?
Well, I would just say customer. But I would say that for every year, not just 2021, being in the loyalty industry. But I kind of think more than ever, if you don't understand your customers and you can't talk to them and you're not building, I keep saying, building out these kind of interactions, it's just going to be a really get more and more tough as time moves forward. So I think it's, you know, really focusing on kind of the service and the rewards that you're giving your customers. How are you offering your most valuable customers the best possible experience with your brand, and just being really honest with yourself and kind of pushing you to think, okay, outside of the like product consideration, product purchase, delivery, you know, that little cycle, what am I really doing that's adding value to my customer base, that's giving them something worthwhile, and you know, trying to say, being honest with yourself about that and seeing how much you can add to that over the coming year. And also, as importantly, how do you go about measuring that impact, and how are you bringing the rest of the business along with you through some of those great wins that you can demonstrate to start shifting this mind that's set that it's a cost base, not a profit driver.
How about you, Gav?
I mean, when we were sort of looking at these sorts of things, I found myself hating Sheila straight away because she got in there first saying customer, 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 and that's is essentially where it should be. I don't think we should have anything else on the screen, but I need to add something, and I think over and above, probably adding, as you can see, the agility, rewards, and trust. I think agility, as I mentioned right at the beginning, because things are changing so quickly, especially even before the pandemic, things were changing really quickly. So you need to be able to not be so wedded to your strategy and your plan for the year, but be able to adapt as you know, things are sort of thrown up at you. Rewards, as I mentioned before, far too many businesses sort of focus on acquiring new business and not retaining it. So look to your existing database and reward them, give them something, give them a reason to want to stay and come back and purchase. And then you know, finally you have to build up some trust, and I think that's where the empathy sort of thing comes in. And you know, people talking about their data and you know, worried about sort of abusing people's data. Well, don't abuse people's data. You know, be open, honest, and transparent, and then you can help build up that trust, and that trust helps to look back into the that sort of empathy and loyalty, and I think that's kind of where we need to be. But yeah, I hate Sheila for saying customer, customer, customer before me.
Anytime.
Nice. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from this. I hope people at home as well. We're going to do a Q&A right now. So I'm going to flip through the questions. If we miss any questions, then we'll make sure to get back to you after this session. So I'm just going to read a few. There's a very good question here that has come through that I think is relevant to a lot of businesses, well, in 2020, 2021. And it reads, I'm a tailor, my customers and new contacts are loyal, but when working from home, you know, they're not wearing any tailored clothing. How do I incentivize them to buy?
It's a very difficult one, but it's kind of like the example I showed with Black Tomato, the travel company. It's all about sort of projecting and looking forward. I think what you need to do is continue that sort of vein of making sure that people are loyal. So remind them of times that they had sort of you know, great suits and occasions that they could wear them at, and project onto when we get out of this, and get them ready. I mean, one thing I'll want to do is, as soon as lockdown is over and all of this is over, I'm going to party for a whole probably month, right? And I'm going to want to wear all the clothes. Wardrobe over here. I'm looking to wear all the clothes that I haven't been wearing. So sort of focus on that thing. I actually saw a joke the other day. It says my fancy clothes missed me so much. I tried them on the other day and they hugged me so much that I couldn't actually get them on. And I think that's the sort of thing you need to do, is project forward, remind people of where they were, and you can pick out people from the database using your data, remind them of occasions or things that they bought from you, and then talk about where they could be going next. And I think that's probably where you need to focus.
I think that's it. You know, a loyalty program's not going to make someone buy something if they don't need it, you know, when they don't need it. But yeah, exactly. What it can do is keep the discussion and the interaction alive. So when they are, you know, hopefully in the not too distant future, needing to buy smarter clothes and realizing nothing fits them anymore, and they start going back out into the world, that you're top of mind for that purchase, that they're not just browsing online and seeing, you know, that they just kind of straight away think, oh, well, you know, I'm obviously going to go back to that tailor because it was a great experience, and, you know, they've been in touch, and then, you know, maybe there's some additional services you can offer on their first full suit that they're going to buy after lockdown or whatever it might be. So I think it's realistic that, you know, if people don't need things, they're not going to be buying them, but make sure when they do, they come straight to you rather than looking around at the competition.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's sort of comparable to the example that you showed from Black Tomato, isn't it? It's like just making sure that you still make sure that your customers are a part of the brand, and that you keep on building that brand recognition and sort of, yeah, the love for the brand among your customers. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
There's another question that I want to share with you, and it was briefly mentioned today as well, and I don't think we'll actually have an answer specifically. We can come back to that, but I do think it's good to discuss it. The question reads, do you have any comparable statistics for B2B customer loyalty? What can we say about B2B? Like, how is it different? It's probably a very long-winded answer that we can get into, but yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, from our side, I think you have to also remember within B2B, it's still human beings, you know, that you're interacting with. And when we're talking to clients about B2B programs, that's often where things like third-party rewards become more valuable. So you might be selling, I don't know, construction equipment to small builders or bigger corporations, and people are buying that, but can you offer, actually, you know, you got 2 free cinema tickets this weekend, or you've got you know, free coffee at Costa, or whatever it might be. So showing that, yes, it's a B2B environment, yes, you're buying for your business or for your boss's business, whatever it is, but you're a human being, we value your business. You know, how can we make your life easier? You know, we're doing work with a client at the moment in the automotive industry, and looking at that, you know, how can we give rewards that make life easier when you're on the road? So it's, you know, it's still linked to what it is that you might be offering them as possible, but otherwise, you know, that's where, if you don't have a kind of set of services or products or perks and rewards within your existing kind of product that you offer customers, looking externally and partnering up with really relevant partners for those kind of branded rewards is powerful.
You hit the nail right on the head right at the beginning there. You said, even though it's B2B, you're still selling to people, right?
Yeah.
And people, as we mentioned before, people love personalized experiences. And if you're able to along the way work with, I guess, salespeople, account managers who help build that connection as well, pick up little bits and pieces about the individuals that you're sort of you're giving a service to, and give them perks along the way. You know, who doesn't love a random bottle of champagne being sent to them? You know, if you're that way inclined. But if you don't drink, then maybe they like a good smoothie or something. You know, it sounds weird, but just those little perks you'll sort of have and take with you. I was talking to someone the other day, and they're based in the Canary Islands. And I was talking to them, and I was looking out the window, and it's like, it's really grey here, and they were saying it's really nice where they are. And literally 10 minutes after that call, I got a voucher come through for them, for me to get something on Deliveroo, because they said, yeah, sorry, it's not great weather, but this, at least you don't have to go out and get something for lunch today. You can get something in. That alone was brilliant, and I'm telling that story now. So I think those sorts of little things you can do. It doesn't have to be, you know, moving mountains for people, but, you know, picking up on little conversations you've had and using that and filtering that through into your CRM. So you've got notes in there, and you can use that to help send those little personalized messages.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna get just one more question, because I know that we're running out of time, but this one is too good to leave. So it reads, as a retailer addicted to the discounting drug, how do you re-engage and encourage loyalty? Do you tackle best customers first?
Who wants to? So there's a couple of ways of doing this, and this is, again, I know I bang on about data, but you do need to segment. So you can use tools to sort of break down your data very easily. For those people who are loyal and who don't use discounts, take them out, and make sure you don't use discounts for those people. Make sure you focus on other bits and pieces. Give them perks. You know, rain gifts on them, and you know, get them use sort of user-generated content from them, and, you know, put them to the forefront. For those who are discounting, put them into another group and start looking at them slightly differently. Maybe start to reduce the amounts of discounting. I've worked on this with clients before. It's very difficult once you're already in sort of a discount phase to sort of wean people off, but I guess you can start to do that, and you can give them maybe some other gifts along the way. But the most important thing to do for me is cut the lines. So for every new customer you've got coming in, take off the discounts, or at least, you know, do some testing on there to see whether you actually need to incentivize with a discount to acquire a new customer or not. So I think that's where you need to start off first. You know, cut off the discounts for everyone new, and only give discounts, you know, as and when you need to. You put more emphasis on the benefits of the product that you have, and also the sort of company ethos and the, you know, the sort of good qualities or unique qualities in the business that you have to help you stand out.
I think this is one example of where all of the disruption of the last year is probably quite helpful, because I think it is, as much as customers are addicted, obviously businesses are, because if you're doing a big events weekend that you do every year and you've got to comp the same the following year on the numbers, and it's like, well, we can't not do that event because then we'll be down. Whereas there's been so much disruption now, what's the baseline compared to 2020? You know, a lot of those bad habits you've encouraged customers, like for years with boots, you know, every 3 weeks the shampoo goes on 3 for 2, so you're just going to wait and buy it when it goes on 3 for 2. Trained that full price is something you would just not pay. So I think, you know, a lot of those habits and things we've been used to is so disrupted now that actually it's quite a nice time to try and reset these things. And I think, as Gavin said, knowing who is going to respond, because there are price sensitive people, there are promotion hunters, and, you know, they're still bringing money to you as a business, but knowing that you're giving a promotion or an incentive or a discount where it's actually driving the purchase that wouldn't have happened without it, rather than giving that discount when that purchase is going to happen anyway, so you've given it away. So I think there's a few different ways to like you say, but it's all boils down to the data and having that understanding of who is responsive to promotions and price and who isn't.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's really good. We're going to have to wrap it up for today, but I want to thank you guys for sharing all your insights. I learned a lot from that, so I hope the audience at home did too. There's a few really good questions in the chat still, so we'll make sure to follow up on that.
Yeah, we'll get back to those. Yeah,
but it's good to see that you know that there's so many good questions out of the audience, so thank you for that. Yeah, we're going to leave it at that. I think there's one more slide with a few useful hyperlinks. If you do want to have a bit more information about Antavo or about dotdigital, you can go to the links that are shown on this slide. For now, I want to thank you all for your time, for your attention, and for the couple of minutes extra that we took from you. Have a good day, and we hope to be in touch with you. Bye-bye.
Bye.